So this is the Yearn Stane, the symbol of our project. It's a 4-ton boulder that sits on the boundary between Largs and Dalry. The reason we've chosen it is Yearn Stane means the Eagle's Rock. I've been working in this area for over 20 years doing survey for different developments, mainly wind farms over the past while, and it's not unusual to come and sit on a hill around this area for 3 and 6 hours and see absolutely nothing, not even a crow. The ultimate aim of the Yearn Stane Project is to bring together a diverse group of people from the local area to get them all working towards a common goal for everyone's benefit.
I think that's where I get great pleasure just in planting a tree, because that fills me with optimism. One tree can make a massive difference. I'm standing here in Muir Country Park in the heart of the Renfrewshire Hills, and we're right in the middle of the Yearn Stane Project area. It's a vast area stretching to the north, to the River Clyde estuary, down the North Ayrshire coast, across the Renfrewshire Heights, which is the sort of core area, and then into the lower farmland towards the east, and stretching right up towards the sort of Glasgow conurbation. So it's a vast, diverse landscape. We have the only core wild area in the whole of central Scotland, so it's quite significant from that point of view. A wild area that few people really explore to any great extent, apart from coming into these visitor centres that are sort of dotted across the area. We've been working for a few years now with Clyde Muirshiel Regional Park. Here, for example, there's been an area of cleared conifers, and we've been planting the aspen trees that we grow locally. The whole area, like many of the upland areas of Scotland, has suffered from historic sort of, I guess, exploitation, mismanagement over the years. Here is very typical of other areas, whether it's on the high moorland. We've had historic draining of the peatlands. I think we suffer here from some of the worst peat hags, deepest peat grips, and some of the worst erosion anywhere in any of the sort of moorland areas in Scotland. So it's a whole catalogue of loss really, and through that extinctions of various species right up to recent years. We've got records just over the last couple of decades of things being lost.
Port Glasgow, literally 6 miles that way. Glasgow, 12 miles that way. Kilbirnie, 9 miles that way. The great thing about the Yearn Stane Project is the people that are involved. We are just ordinary people. We don't come from some big organisation. We don't have any agenda other than wanting to improve this landscape, because we live here. The most important thing about it for me is all about reconnecting people and communities with this landscape. Trying to bring life back to this landscape, which has become degraded and brought down in value, and it's much poorer quality than it was. And in a funny way, I feel that this landscape actually represents what's going on in our communities, especially within the Central Belt. And the other key thing about the Yearn Stane Project for me is our proximity to all these centres of population. 2 million people within an hour's drive of the site that we're hoping to try and restore, but most of the people are much closer than that. And we're hearing terrible things in the news about record-breaking levels of drug addiction and obesity and all these social problems, and they're literally a stone's throw away from where we're standing now. And for me, that is one of the special and pivotal things about the Yearn Stane Project, is that we're going to be able to try and right some of those wrongs and heal some of that, not just the landscape, but heal the communities that live in and around the area. The thing we've realised from talking to people involved in the area, from talking to farmers, to landowners, to school children, to community groups, is that this whole idea of building consensus is absolutely essential to the success of this project, and that we need to bring people along with us in this journey, because so often the outdoors and the environment is something that people go and do rather than something that they have. I think we need to start to think, well, the models that we have been using in terms of land management and conservation, they're not working. And that's not saying that it's the conservationist's faults or the farmer's faults, but it's very easy for the environment to become this political football. And I think if we can depoliticise the conversation and depolarise it, but we can only do that by getting people here.
I was born Growing up in Kilburnie, and this was my play area as a child. I used to live in a street just behind here. Perfect peace and quiet without something ringing in your ear, except for the wildlife that ran about here that we always watched out for. I had to give up work and decide that I would get involved in volunteering. By default, I get asked to look at something else and get landed with a post in Project Kilburnie, finding ways to gain the funding we needed to set up groups like this Place Woodland group, which was based around a John Muir award scheme and the hope that employability skills would come for this. And we've seen at least half a dozen leave here to go into work again after being out of work for a long time, thinking that they were unemployable. Woodland therapy is one of the best ways of getting people thinking better of themselves.
The ecological perspective in the area, as well as perhaps being able to support eagles nesting. Over the past 30 years or so, we've lost birds like the golden plover, the dunlin. They used to nest in the area. We had black grouse here as well, a very attractive species that's been lost to the area. Very common things you would expect to see all over Scotland. The mountain hare. We have no mountain hares here at all anymore. That's another food item the eagles have lost. Water voles are completely extinct in the area, and we've started to lose some of our plants as well. There was a development up near Loch Tom where some guys putting in a roadway went 6 foot the wrong side and made bog myrtle extinct in the whole area. So that shows you we're at the level here now where 6 foot either way can mean the extinction of a plant or an animal, and how are they going to get back here? This is something that we at the Yearn Stane are quite passionate about. We want to get some of these beasts back out on the hill. We know it's difficult to get some of these ideas across. Some controversial things, maybe like the beaver, not everybody's cup of tea. Some people would probably think that there's a few more things that could be made extinct up here, like ravens and crows, but in actual fact, if we get rid of the ravens and the crows, there'll be nothing here at all.
For me, the Yearn Stane Project is about a landscape that's been deprived and neglected for a long time, and what we can do is bring that landscape back to life and rejuvenate the area in a socio-economic way as well as a green and conservation. Well, here we are today in Glengarnock, or sunny Glengarnock, and we're maybe about 5 mile away from the Renfrewshire Heights. You can just see them in the background here. We've got Glengarnock Main Street. Going running by here, you can hear some of the traffic. The River Garnock, it's a beautiful river, full of life, but it can be a very, very big threat to the people and the businesses of this area. People in the houses over here have been flooded, there's been businesses flooded just further downstream. It's not a very good place to be when you can't get your house insured or your business insured and you're still living under the threat of flooding. Now, we in the Yearn Stane Project firmly believe that if we can bring this landscape back to life and bring the bog back to its best, that it can hold water, then it would slow up the water coming down off the hill, and it would give people a better chance of even mitigating against flood on these occasions.
So the subject of global warming is definitely something that's become much higher profile within our own school in the last year or so, I would say.
I kind of feel annoyed because even if we do try really hard, people will still do what they do and they're still ruining our future.
Accessing outside for us is hugely important. We are very fortunate the setting that we're in. We've got so much on our doorstep. A huge focus for us here in school is health and well-being, physically and mentally, and the impact that we see of being able to access what is on our doorstep is huge. The children perform much better in the classroom, they perform much better outside, and they just benefit from the outside spaces hugely.
I like living in Loch Winnoch because I can get out and about in the fresh air, and that's actually good for your mental health in a way, because it's quite calming when you go a walk and around the countryside and around the background there's hills and things, and on the top of the hills there's snow. We access the community garden and we've helped the upkeep of keeping the community garden going, and beyond that we've helped plant aspen trees and trees down at the local river to help the banks of the river.
The community garden down next to the church, that's like helping people, like encourage people to like grow more and not rely so much on like going and buy stuff.
I think we should just plant more things, like we do planting things and that's fun, like even just once a term we could plant things. It helps with the ecosystem.
We have the River Calder behind there, and it comes down from Yearn Stane Country Park. It flows into the loch, which is further down. So I'd say the problem with that river is there's a good amount of fish, and then this late autumn the salmon will come up there to spawn. But just round the corner here there's a waterfall man-made for a mill, which was, the mill's no longer there, but the waterfall's just sitting there and the salmon cannot get past it, and there's no fish ladder to let them go up to the spawning grounds.
The thing is, I went to a fishery and why can't they just let it in the river and have like an area, like rather than a fishery they just have like a good area of river?
So I'd say one of the best solutions is to build really just small weirs along the river to kind of hold the water back, make it a bit deeper. Not so high that the fish can't get over, but like 2 feet tall, and then that could actually create deep pools for their habitat to let them grow, get bigger.
I think climate change, we need to be able to fix it because we're creating the problems and we need a solution because nature can't fix itself, so we need to kick in and help it.
The reason why there's so much flooding is to do with the rain, but also to do with climate change, like with the polar bears ice melting, and we're basically making them extinct, and people like David Attenborough and Greta are trying to fix this, but we're not doing anything to help, we're just making it worse and worse.
So like if we want to be able to climb trees, then we'll need to stop like deforestation, because we want to be able to have fun outside, but we can't have fun if people is destroying our fun by climate change and other like deforestation and lots of other problems.
So we would welcome any opportunities here in Loch Winnoch to access anything out and about, so we would be happy to work with any partners, anyone that could help us access the community and beyond, would be a real bonus for us.
We're at the moment consulting local farmers and landowners, getting their opinions and views on where they see themselves. How can we help them initiate projects that have a mutual benefit, a benefit to the community as well as them?
Farmers are really up against it. We don't want the farmers to be doing anything that's going to hit their bank balance, and at the end of the day make life harder for them, because life's hard enough for farmers and for their families. So what we want to do is to almost create a buffer of expertise and support and non-judgment that will allow them to move forward in a way that suits them, that also fits into our wider remit of making things more sustainable, not just for them but for everybody.
Some of the local tenant farmers are working 80 plus hours a week for less than minimum wage.
This is Hardridge Farm. We're in Renfrewshire. This is a hill farm, mostly heather and a wee bit of in-by around the steading. We have only Scottish blackface ewes. In June we'll gather the sheep in and we'll shear the hoggets first. That's the year-old ones, and any ewe that's not rearing a lamb, and we'll let them back out the hill, and we'll then bring them all back in July, and that's when we'll shear the ewes that are rearing the lambs. Probably one fleece is roughly worth 30 pence. It's nothing. It's just literally, it's just pennies. It's just a cost that we need to do, and we need to incur. We need to shear them at least once a year. I think it's great that you could start to look at local produce. We're producing it and then we're shipping it all over the country from one end to the other, and there'll be food passing each other going between countries, so it's a bit mad.
I'm originally from Norway, and back in Norway everything is very focused on being outdoors and having your food sourced locally. All the milk in Norway is, they try to distribute all the milk regionally. You have to think of how much that food is going to travel before it's on your table, basically. And in Norway they've set up subsidies so that it encourages local produce, and the farms are not so big either because it's a cap on your farm subsidy, so it encourages people to get a lot of money for a small amount of animals that will go to your area, basically. And I think looking at the future, I think something like that could be possible for Scotland as well.
Well, the hill's been managed for grouse and sheep farming over the last 100 years, and to have a habitat to keep these beasts on the hill for that economic reason, it needs to be drained. And if we can hold back the water, then it would be more regulated, the flow of water, and it would get rid of the huge sharp peaks and troughs that basically end up as flooding events in this area. As well as that, there's wildlife in the river as well. So we're talking about erosion of peat, and that silt comes down into the river, and it can affect migratory fish, breeding grounds. It can affect the breeding grounds of the trout. If it silts up, it can also affect the invertebrates that these top-end predators of the river need to exist. So all these things are interlinked: the flooding, the silting, and obviously the bog at the top of the hill. If we can bring that back to life, then we can stop the deterioration of our landscape and help people.
Everyone's becoming more and more informed about these big issues, which is climate change, biodiversity loss, are the two biggies affecting us all. And here in our own patch, we feel, well, things are really bad, we feel, but there's great potential for improvement.
And my vision, what I would love, especially for where we are up here in Muir, would be for there to be some system for the Yearn Stane to be sustainable to the level where we could say, well, get yourself to the train station, there'll be a bus, pick you up, bring you up here. There'll be people here that will help facilitate your access to the countryside and grow your confidence till you start to feel that this is somewhere that you can be. And it's much, you know, the third generation unemployed single mother in Kilbirnie. It's as much her place as it is the person who's riding up here on a £3,000 mountain bike, and it is. But it's how do we bring those things together?
It's actually quite sad in a way, but it's also quite good because it lets us take action on the planet, and most of the jobs we're going to do probably don't even exist at this point right now. So there could be millions of jobs to help the environment by the time we grow up.
We can see there's change coming. We're not quite sure what the change will be, but there will be changes in the future. There seems to be quite a lot of drive towards your carbon footprint as farmers, and food miles and more local production. And we're open to all sorts of ideas and suggestions.
We're ready for the future anyway, because I think both me and Archie have the look on things that whatever happens, we're ready for the change.
We're the ones that have to be living in this at the end, so we're kind of killing ourselves by killing the environment.
This is a time where the challenge is on us to be looking at new ways of approaching land management that's not just beneficial for economics, but it's beneficial for people's lives, it's beneficial for wildlife, it's beneficial for the future. Because if we can bring the habitats back to life, it's not just a 10-year thing. This is a 50, this is 100 years, it's 200 years we're talking. But we've had 200 years of degradation in the first place, so to put that back, it's not going to happen overnight with a flick of a switch. It's going to take time, and it's going to take people, and changing the hearts and minds of people is the biggest challenge. It's a possible achievement. Basically, it's in everybody's interest to do so.
And an investment in us would be an investment in the future, you know.